All right, hello everybody. I can see everyone's filing in. Cool, this is looking awesome. There's heaps of people joining today because it's quite a hot topic. So it's really awesome to have you all here just to learn some more about Safe Food Pro, especially when it comes to these verifications. So hope everyone's doing well in their lockdown, wherever you are, if you're on alert level 2 or level 3. I know it's pretty crazy to be in hospitality at the moment, but I'm sure you guys are all doing well out there. Awesome, looks like people are still filing in. We'll just wait a couple of seconds while everyone's jumping in. Quick reminder, we are on Zoom for these webinars now. So we have those 2 different platforms in terms of reaching out to us. Ryan is still coming in through that chat and through that Q&A, so feel free to say hello through that chat. But a quick reminder, there is that Q&A section as well in Zoom. So if you've got any specific questions that you'd like me to cover at the end, when it comes to like a Q&A session time, pop it into that Q&A and I'll be able to help from there. It just makes it easy to sort through questions so I don't miss them at all. Perfect, that's looking awesome. How exciting. All right, so I'm just going to get straight into it because it's quite a monster of a topic. So there is quite a lot to kind of go over. So what we're covering today is, as you can see right here, getting ready for your verification. This is mainly about 1, preparing for it, and 2, making sure you understand Safe Food Pro and what to show your verifier on the day. So I know a lot of companies or businesses out there, or you guys, work so hard throughout the year. You fill in all your forms. Your staff really work hard when it comes to their food safety forms they need to do. But when it comes to the verification day, you might not be so comfortable with that reports page because that's not the thing you're using every day. So it's a matter of being really comfortable with that so you easily know how to find the data that you've worked so hard to produce already. Just a quick little note at the start, we've found that verifiers are becoming more and more comfortable with Safe Food Pro as it's been around for longer, and these online platforms are becoming more common, which is really awesome. We've found it's been really helpful when it's come to verification, as they've been able to comfortably navigate around the system as well, which has been really cool. There are still some out there, obviously, that don't know everything about it, which is why, again, it's really important for you guys to know how to navigate around it, how to show them what you need to show them, so it's just a really seamless and smooth day. All right, I'm just going to get straight into it. So what I'm going to start with today is a bit of how to prepare for it, not in terms of what specific forms you're filling in, as that's something that's more specific to your food control plan, but it's more around how to make sure you're checking and how you know what to look for. I'm just going to share my screen. We're going to spend most of today's webinar just straight in that admin console, as that's really what you will use when it comes to 1, the verification day, and 2, when you want to do a quick check of your account to make sure you're on top of everything. Awesome, so I've just shared my screen to the admin console, so just pop in the chat if you can't see that at all, if we've had any issues. But first thing that I'm going to start with is our verification pack. So this is a resource that we've set up in our Safe Food Pro support library. It's just something we've created to help give you guys a bit of guidance around how to make sure you know what to look for and that everything's looking all good. So to find this, first of all, either just message me, so through the support email, and just ask for some info on our verification pack, or you can just jump straight down to our help button on this admin console. Search for verification pack, hit enter, and this one comes up here straight away. So I'm just going to click straight onto that verification pack tab. And what this is it just gives you 6 quick steps just to make sure you're comfortable and ready for the day. So the first step is going through the verification checklist, which I'll explain in just a second. And then it covers other things such as being comfortable with that reports page, which is what we're going to discuss today, setting up a verifier with a verifier user, which is also what we're going to chat about today, and then just a couple of helpful tips. Within this article, we've got the verification checklist, which can be really helpful. It's just a really basic guide that you can use to just keep yourself accountable for what you guys are filling in. It's nice just to, for one, especially if you're new to Safe Food Pro and you want to make sure that you are doing everything, you know how to find everything correctly. And two, maybe if you've had staff turnover, which can happen quite often, to make sure all of your staff seem to be on track with what you guys want them to be filling in. This takes you through checking your dashboard to make sure you've been completing those 100% statistics for your forms, and then completing any of those additional ad hoc forms, making sure your staff details and supplies is all up to date and things like that. You can also access this form on your app from that ad hoc section as well. So there's that green plus button on the app, and there's a form in there called verification checklist. So I know what some people do is they schedule this form to show up on a bit of a schedule. So say once every 3 months or once every 6 months or things like that. That way you can yourself open up your admin console and do a mini little verification on your own. So you're making sure you're really on top of everything. Because these checklists are all well and good, but if you're looking at it the night before your verification and you see that you might have missed something, there's not really anything you can do. So it's nice just to stay proactive and stay on top of it by preempting it and doing it in advance. It's also something really good to do when you've first started Safe Food Pro. So say you've been using us for about a month, you're feeling quite comfortable, so you want to check you're on the right track. Have a look at this checklist, and it could help guide you as well. I'm also always here too if you need some advice, so feel free to just message me as well. So say you've got that checklist open, what you'd do is you'd come onto your admin console, you'd open that app in front of you, and you'd go through the checklist. So I know one of the first questions in there is checking that you've had 100% form completion. So say the last time I reviewed this checklist was 2 months ago, I'd change my date range on here to custom. I'd change the date range back to the 1st of July, and I'd just do a quick check to make sure I've been filling in my daily forms. So the cafe I'm looking at right now displays it's only open weekdays, which is why there's these little grey gaps. But other than that, it looks like it's done really well, and we just won't open that first week there. It looks like our weekly forms are looking good, but we missed week 1. So maybe I could find who was working in week 1 and see if they might not understand how to fill in those forms. And same with the monthly forms are looking good. You can also see all of my temperatures for this time period. You can see I had a spike on Thursday, and you could even drill into that form from the reports page and see if there was a corrective action made and if that problem has been resolved. Other things you can review is things like your maintenance schedule, so making sure your equipment's all in good nick, and if you've completed those maintenance checks if you had any due. Another thing I would review is I'd go down the list of my menu. So I'd start with my staff and users, and I'd check everyone there is current. So they're all my current employees. If there was someone who might have left since I last did a little review, I can go and click the delete icon and delete them out. When that comes to a staff training report, which we'll look at later, they'll just show as the day you deleted them as the day they departed your business, the day they left. Same with supplies and equipment, just a quick click just to check that these are all correct. It's also a good way to clean up your Safe Food Pro account, so it makes it easier moving forward. Say you had heaps of supplies that you might not actually use anymore. If you get rid of the ones you're not using, it'll make it easier to use those delivery forms too, because you'll have less to sort through. And equipment, you can check those maintenance dates are all up to scratch. The final thing you can look through is probably your forms, especially if you are new to Safe Food Pro, and make sure that you've updated things that you might need to customize. The main thing to look at here is your cleaning task form. So we've given you guys a pretty stock standard template of cleaning tasks, just as an example, but make sure you change that to suit your business, as everyone does their cleaning differently. And that way you can make sure your staff completely understand as well how they're doing the cleaning and how they're keeping everything safe and nice in your business too. Awesome. The next thing you would do, so that's you going through that verification checklist. There's a couple of things you can then do to help you a little bit further, just a few little cool features in Safe Food Pro, like setting up this days to verification button. To do that, you go down to My Business. I scroll down here and there's just this next verification date option down here. It's quite small, but it's just on this My Business tab, and you can just change that to set when your next verification date is. That way you get that helpful countdown until your verification date. This page is also what shows up in your summary report, which I'm about to jump over to. So if you need to update any of this information, it's always good to check and make sure it's all up to date as well. That includes things like who your current manager is, and you can even add who you're registered with as well. So if you've got your verifiers details. The final thing on this page is your food plan questions summary. What this is when you first started Safe Food Pro, you ran through the our food rules wizard. And what that does is it asks you yes, no, and multi-choice questions depending on what your food control plan is. This here displays what the answers to those questions were. So it's always good every once in a while, or if you have updated your food control plan or changed the way your business works at all, to go through and check these questions all look correct. Same with your scope of operations. If they don't look correct and you might need to update them, you just go up to the top here, click your food plan details, and then click edit food rules. And what this does is you can just go through and rerun that wizard that you did when you first started. And that way you can update those questions down there and get the correct forms you need to if you have changed something in your food control plan. Awesome. The final thing that is really good to do is set up your verifier with a verifier user. I've spoken to a couple of verifiers recently and they've really enjoyed when people do this. It's something to talk to your verifier about if they would like to do it this way as well, as all of them can work differently. But what this does is you set them up with a specific type of user, so an email address and a password, and that way they can access your Safe Food Pro account from their own computer. So sometimes they even do it before they get into your business, especially with COVID and lockdown. It can be something they can do before without having to see you. Or if we move into more remote verifications, it can be something really helpful with that as well, as it saves you all a bit of time. So to do this, you can just have a chat with your verifier and see if they're okay with it. Then from there, you can add their email address. So I'd go up here, I'd click the plus button. I'd click the user button here. And then I'd add their email address. So whatever their email address is here, set them a password and make sure you email them to let them know what that password is. They can always reset that themselves as well. The key thing here is to make sure you set that role to verifier. And what that does is it gives them a semi-restricted access, so they just can't see things like your payment details, they can't add new users or anything, and they can't complete forms on the app. So it's more of a view access. Then add their first name and last name. Once you've added that, they will receive an email letting them know that they've been invited to use Safe Food Pro in your account as well. So that can be really helpful. That way they can go through and look through those reports in their own time as well, if they're comfortable with that. Awesome. So that is the preparing for your verification. Now, when it comes to the actual day, or maybe when you're still going through that checklist and you want to review your forms, you're going to do this from the reports tab. So this is up here. I click on this one to open it. And there's 4 different tabs in here. So I'll quickly kind of go through what these do. The first thing I like to start with is the summary report. And what this does is generates a big report based on a lot of the different sections of your food control plan. And it adds a lot of these summary reports on this page automatically in there. So to generate it, you just click generate report. I have actually pre-generated this one, as it can take a few minutes to load. So I'm just going to open up a different screen. I always recommend, if you are going to load this one, just click on it, go make yourself a quick cup of tea, and then come back and sit down to look through your reports. So you should see that verifiers report here now. The reason it can take a little while is because it's searching through your whole Safe Food Pro account to look through all of your forms. So it is doing a lot of work to find this report. This report is based off either the day you started Safe Food Pro to today, that's all the data it shows, Or where I just showed you in the My Business section, if you had set a last verification date, it will show from that last verification date to today. So that way it won't have to show, you know, your whole, if you've been with us for a few years, your past few years of data, it can just show since your last verification. As I scroll down here, it's split up and color coordinated by those sections. So we've got the setup section here. As I mentioned before, this is based off that tab in My Business, which you can update if you need to. And it just has all your information in here. This then is mirrored off that where you could rerun that wizard on that page. So how you tailored your food control plan, all this data comes from there. And then you can attach that business layout again on that My Business page as well. So that can be stored in here too. It then starts with your staff training summary. So you can see here that I've got Jane and Jessica and me, we've all been trained. You can see what position we are and the date we started working with the company. You can then see what form they've completed in that training. So you can see that Jane has done quite a bit. So she's done 2 specific training forms, an induction training and a COVID training as well. You can then see the contents of that form if it's that specific one, as that one shows you a resource that they've been trained in. So you can see that Jane was trained in that form. She focused on starting and closing. She grabbed that information and read her food control plan, and that's how she learned this information when she was being trained. And then this is the description of what she was actually trained in. If you want a further insight into this form, you can click on these view icons here. And these are consistent throughout the whole report, and you click on them and that opens that individual form there as well, so you can get more information. So that's the staff training. If you did delete someone earlier, so they're not there, it'll show when you deleted them as when they departed in that section too. You've then got the starting section, so all that information is up there. And this goes through things like your staff sickness. Again, you can just scroll across to open each individual form. Or you can open a straight form report by clicking that view icon there. So if there's a lot of forms there, it can be sometimes easier to click this one. And it opens up that report individually. And it shows you the 2 entries here with each name of each question across here as well, and who completed that form. It also contains your pest control. If you're doing your daily opening checks, it shows how many you have completed versus how many you should have completed versus how many you did. So I was 5 off, so I must have missed 5 days, which we saw on my dashboard earlier at the start of July. It shows your temperature checks, and then it also shows if you added any of those exceptions or blue notes to your form. So you can see here that with my walk-in chiller, I added a blue note to this as my temperature was out of range. And so I can actually click on it here. You can see the temperature here. So it looks like this one read at 14 degrees. So that was that spike we saw on the dashboard before. You can see that I added a blue note saying fridge seems to be playing up. I've removed all the food and thrown it out, called maintenance. This is just a random example. And a follow-up action here was made to Jane, and it says to fill in a maintenance form when the maintenance people come, and it looks like Jane completed that, so that means that maintenance has been completed. You can even drill further into that and look onto that date to see if a maintenance form was completed and to see how that issue ended up too. It then further continues on to preparation. So I've got receiving a delivery here, making and cooking. So it shows how you guys prove your cooking methods or if you cool your food or things like that. So you can see I haven't actually done a proven cooking method form yet, but I have been doing my once a week checks. So this one has 4 once a week checks that have been done and the data that's been filled in. So I'd obviously have to fill in another one of those forms. But this is obviously just an example account. You've then also got these cooling food check forms here, and you can again scroll across to view and drill into that as well. Goes into serving, so I didn't actually supply food to another business, so I didn't actually fill in any of those forms. Closing, and then the final one down the bottom, you've got maintenance, but you've also got, we scroll right down, your troubleshooting section too. So this shows if you had any incidents or any complaints, that will all show up in here as well, so you can really get a good insight. As I was saying earlier, you can print or email this form off, so the print can download it so you can email it off to your verifier. But I do find the best method is to show them or set up that user. That way they can drill into the reports by using these cool little icon features. Otherwise, if it was just a PDF, they don't have the option to do that. Awesome, so that's the summary report. It's a really good chunk of information to start with. This is then supported by this summary reports page, which is just based off some categories. So you've got a whole incidents report here. You've got all of your blue notes or exceptions that might have been added to forms. So you can see I added one to that equipment maintenance register, my temperature checks here, and so on. You've got staff sickness, complaints, temperature checks. So there's so much stored on this page. Another cool one that isn't in that report is actually the action and tasks. So if you've added any of those follow-up actions, these will all show here, as well as a live update on whether they have been completed or not. So say your verifier does give you some follow-up, some corrective actions after your verification, there might be a report in here that you could use to send off to them once you have completed those forms. So say you might have not been completing a form that you needed to, you could send them off one of these reports to show that you are now filling in that form, or things like that. The next thing I'd do is I can look at my form reports and completed forms. So what I'd do is I'd change my date range first. So I'd go up to custom, and this company only started in July. So I'm just going to go back to the start of July to get the data that I need. Perfect. I'm going to start with form reports. So that summary report we just looked at is a really awesome tool. But what it does do is it grabs all of the information off our Safe Food Pro default forms. So if you're not using our forms, then the form reports page is better suited for you. So that's because our forms are made to be generated in that report. However, we don't know what your custom forms include, so we can't actually put them in that report at the moment. If you do use those custom forms, or there are some forms that you want to look at that weren't in that summary report, use the form reports page here. This is every single form in your account, and it gives you the ability to generate a report on each individual form. You can see that I've how many of those forms you've completed in this date range. So let's say I want to show that I've done training on COVID. So I've got that COVID form in here for training. You can then go across and click. So you can see I've actually only had one staff member complete this form. And you can click this green page icon to open up that individual report. And it has the questions across here that are in that form, and the ability to print it, email it, or download it as a CSV or an Excel spreadsheet. Same with things, let's find another one in here. Say I want to find one on all of my daily pest checks to make sure they're all looking good. I can see I've done 32 of those in the past 2 months. I click that green page icon and the whole report shows up in here. You'll also see there'll be a blue note icon down here if you did add any action required notes too. So that's the form reports page. Perfect for custom forms if you set up any custom cleaning or training forms, and for any forms that aren't in those summary reports. If you or your verifier want to then investigate one specific incident or one specific form, then the completed forms page can be really good for that. So this is every single individual form that's in your account that's been completed. So if you're looking for one in particular, you can come to this page, you can search for it up here, and then you just click that eye icon to open the individual form and see everything that's inside. So that's a really drilled down view into one individual incident or instance. The final reports tab that I'll show you today is our completed calendar. So this one is really, really helpful. It's one of our new ones. So I'm not sure if everyone's managed to have time to have a play around with it yet, but I have focused on it on a couple of webinars ago. But what this is it gives you a calendar view. So I find it's really helpful if you were using that verification checklist to go back, have that checklist in front of you and see how you have gone with your form completion in this date range you've selected. So this one you get a day-by-day view, so you can see I've completed 6 out of the 6 daily scheduled forms each day, which is really good. You can then spot out things such as if a blue note has been added or an incident has happened. So you can see a blue note has been added here, and that's that blue line at the bottom. And a follow-up action has been made, which is that red line at the top. So if I click on that form, it opens up and you can see that blue note that we were looking at before is here, and that follow-up action is in here as well. So it's a really quick insight. You can also see things like, so those orange triangles are customer complaints. If I click on that one, it opens up a complaint that happened. So you'll start to get familiar with those little symbols that pop up here as well, as it'll help you get a quick, you'll get a good eye for it to see if you need to spot any troubleshooting forms that have been completed or things like that. You can then navigate through it like it's just your Google Calendar or your Apple Calendar or things like that. And it shows you all of the forms in here. So yeah, that is your reporting page. That is what you can take your verifier through. Your verifier can go through on their own if they've got that verifier user. But if your verifier is new to Safe Food Pro, it also means if they need help looking at anything, you can give them some guidance on where to look as well. We do also have some good reporting articles and videos that you can always send off, or you guys can watch yourself to learn a bit more too. So that's what happens during the verification. You can obviously take them through the different tabs in your account too, but it's just a matter of knowing where everything is. So when they ask for it, you can really easily show them. But a quick reminder here, most of the verification will be done on the computer. So it's best to have a laptop or a desktop at your work or wherever you are, so you can look at it that way. It's much more user-friendly on a computer. Once you get to your verification and once it's finished, there's only a couple of things you can do from there. First thing I'll give you some advice on is maybe to go and change that last verification date or your next verification date. And that's as we did before down here, just to update that so you've got all those records. The final thing is if you did have any corrective actions that you might need to rectify, you might need to show your verifier that you maybe have started filling in that form now, or you've changed that form or things like that. You can even list these up here in the message console. If it's something, say, maybe one of your staff members might need to have some training on something in particular, you can even send them a message and add a training form or add a resource to give them some info so they can learn more and send it directly to them. Or you can create these actions here, and this can be as like a list for yourself. So if you send it to yourself, which is the automatic default setting, you can create a corrective action. You can create an action in here just so you can kind of take note and log them all in here. That way, when you have done it and made that change, you can just click the tick button to it's like a to-do list that you can add for yourself. Awesome. So I think that kind of covers everything that you need to know in terms of navigating around for your verification. I'm just going to jump across here. So if you have got any questions that you'd like me to cover, just pop them in that Q&A section now. Otherwise, I can follow up people through email. You could always email me through support@safefoodpro.co.nz. And also reach out to us through our Facebook group. We have those blogs constantly coming to keep you guys up to date with things that are happening in the community. And as I showed you before, we've got that support library with that verification pack and heaps of resources to have a look through and make sure you are really comfortable with your Safe Food Pro account. Awesome. I'm just going to have a quick look to see if there were any questions. Okay, I'm just trying to open up that little question, but I saw the little start of it around follow-up actions. And so when it comes to follow-up actions, this is all something that's done on the app. So when you're filling in a form, there's an option to add a blue note, and there's an option to add a follow-up action as well. So I'm just going to stop sharing here so I can open up. I'll turn my little camera on. Perfect. And I will just turn this one off so I can get those questions up. There they are. Awesome. So when it comes to those follow-up actions, that's Francisco. Awesome to have you here. You can, so the follow-up actions come up as if you're getting a message on the app. So there's that little message button, like how I showed you on the admin console. It's just in the top right corner. So if you get assigned a message, so someone puts your name in it and they assign it to you, you will get that notification and you can click on it in that little message console. It'll then have either that form to be completed if there is one that you've attached. As soon as you touch that form or that resource, the follow-up action will automatically be marked as completed. So that means you've gone into that form and you can start to fill it out. From there, if it's something that doesn't have a attachment, so it doesn't have a resource or a form in it, then it can, there's a little done button and you can mark it as done from there. You can't complete the follow-up actions from your dashboard. Oh, you can mark them as complete from the dashboard. So on the dashboard, as I just showed before, there's a little tick and you'll be able to manually mark it as completed from the dashboard, but you won't be able to complete any forms from the dashboard. Awesome. In terms of, hey Brian, I just saw your question. I'll flick you an email afterwards, just to let you know, as it's more of a food safety related one. So I'll chat to you and we'll see whether we need to talk to your verifier about it as well. Perfect. Awesome. No worries, Francisco. Okay, well, I might just leave it there for today, but it was awesome to have you all joining me and the team in this webinar. We will keep doing these every month. So if you have any features or topics that you do want me to cover, I am listening. So please let me know and I'm always happy to add those in. But yeah, thanks for joining me every week or every month, and I will see you next month. Good luck with the lockdowns and everything. See you later, guys.